we recorded last week's presentation as well, and then we will put them on our website, our chapter website. You can find them, it'll say Demo Derby, and the materials that Nancy is using today, they're already on the website, so you can print them out after her presentation today if you haven't done so already. And I think that's it for me. I'm going to turn things over to Nancy right now. Thank you, Nancy, for being with us today.
Good morning. It's nice to see some friendly faces out there. I want to give you a little bit of a background of who I am and how I got into the Sewing Guild. When I was in 8th grade, I moved into the country in the town of Greece. At that time on Ridgeway Avenue, it was farm country. There were dairy farms and crop farms. I joined a 4-H club that specialized in sewing and food preparation. And I found that I loved doing that. I entered items in the county and state fairs and earned ribbons that in those fairs. I entered SUNY Oneonta in the home economics program, and I became a home economics, now called FACS, teacher. And I worked in Rochester, then the Spencerport school districts, and retired after 33 years. I can't remember how long ago it was when a neighbor was walking down our street and she talked about starting an ASG group in the Churchville-Chili area. I love getting together with people who are like-minded about continuing the sewing arts and giving of their talents to the group and to the community. When the Demo Derby was brought up, and I was asked to give a demonstration on my favorite sewing tools. Now, I want you to know, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because so many of you have your own favorite tools and techniques, and that's fine. I'm always open to learning new things, and I do learn new things in the Sewing Guild, but these are the things that I've used successfully in the past. I want you to know before I start that I'm working with a little bit of a problem in that my left hand, I had surgery on my left hand about 7 weeks ago, and it's still very weak. I can't grasp things and I can't pick things up. So if you see something drop or something go up in the air, bear with me. I'll try and get it back. And back in the day, there was a program called Life is Worth Living with Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, and he used to do he used to write his ideas on a big chalkboard, and he'd have scrawls all over it, and he'd step away from the chalkboard and come back later, and he'd say that his angel had erased all of the markings on it so it was clear for the next time. Well, my angel is called Bud, and he's helping me today. He's going to be working my computer so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we'll start out, and Bud, if you would just pull it down a little bit. Okay, all right, perfect, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start out with my toolbox, and it's something that I made a couple years ago at Chestnut Bay. And there are little pockets in there. It's great for carrying tools to my classes, to some of the places that I'm traveling. And there are pockets on the front, so I can set it on the table. I can put my tools that I'm using right now, and they're right there available, and I don't lose them in the mess. It is, I believe the directions are at Chestnut Bay right now, but again, I will have that, I think it's on the website. Now, usually when I'm working and cutting, I'm using my rotary cutter, but when I want a pair of shears, I go to my Gingher serrated shears. They're very sharp, and they grab hold of the fabric. And I like these for cutting when I'm using a pair of shears. A few years ago, probably about 40 years ago, I was taking a sewing machine over to Hudson Avenue to be repaired. And I found a pair of Dinger shears there, and I came home and I said to my husband, they were so nice, but they were $40. And he said to me, Nancy, don't you know that if you're going to do a job right, you have to have good tools? So I went back and I bought them, and I still have them today, but they routinely get sent back to the factory and they get sharpened. They will even sharpen the serrated shears, which I just had done recently. There was a place in the center where it wasn't cutting correctly. My embroidery shears are in the process of getting sent out. When it comes to hand needles, my favorite needle is from Richard Hemming and Son, Crewel size 7. They're sharp, they slide through fabric easily, and I can thread through the oval eye with little trouble. I had to go online to get them because the fabric shops don't always carry them, or they may not carry the right size. If I'm using thread that's a little thicker, for example, for embroidery, I like the Clover needle threader. And for fine threads, like silk thread or thread for applique, this is the Clover needle threader. And I'm sorry, I can't demonstrate how to do it because this hand it's not working these days. When I'm doing hand sewing, I like to use a thread conditioner. This is Thread Heaven. And I like it because it keeps the thread, trying to get my hand to move. This is what I've been putting up with for the past 6 weeks. I like it because it keeps the thread from snarling, it keeps it from twisting, and it really does make a nicer thread. If you want thread that is stronger, beeswax is always good to use. I took a class at the Boston convention last year, and they suggested that you take the thread and you place it, after you've used the beeswax, you place it on paper towel and then iron it, and that will smooth out the wax onto the thread. In August, there was a blog, you won't be able to see this, but there was a blog about needles, hand needles, and it was a good article. It says, as a rule of thumb, the finer the needle, the finer the fabric, the larger size number you want to use, because the larger the number, the shorter and finer the shaft. When I was a beginning sewer, I ran kicking and screaming from using a thimble. It took a while for me to get used to it, but I can't imagine sewing without one. There are all kinds of thimbles on the market. There's metal, silicone, cork, plastic, leather. But my favorite is the good old metal one. I sometimes find that if my hand is hot or it's cold, I have to change the size of the needles. I actually have a collection of different thimbles. When I go traveling, I will collect, I'll collect thimbles. They're decorative more than anything else. This happens to be one that my niece gave me. It's made of leather, and I don't know what kind of fur is on there, but it was just kind of cute. This is a needle, a thimble holder, and it's got a little pod on top, and you can place the thimble inside there. It's got a little carrier, so you can put it around your neck if you are the type of person that goes someplace with your thimble around your neck. These are some other things in my collection. This is a needle holder. It's a sterling silver needle holder. Not sure how well you can see that. And one that's made of grass. And the April-May issue of Threads magazine had a very good article. Excuse my one-handedness here. Okay. Had a really good article in here about thimbles, the different kinds, how to choose one, and how to use your, place your fingers when you're holding the needle as you're using a thimble. And lo and behold, this is the same issue that our friend Kathy Healy had when she was published in Threads magazine. And we were really proud of her for that. Yeah. Let's see, where are we? The Quick Ripper. Yes, have you ever been in a situation where you did a really beautiful job of sewing, nice straight lines, you went to press it open, and there you are, pressed right side to wrong side, or sewed right side to wrong side. And usually the seam ripper is the to-go-to tool, but I have what is called the Quick Ripper, which I love. It looks like a shaver, and I like to start the first inch or so with a seam ripper. Now, I hate to say it, but I use that a lot more than I would like to. I do a lot of unsewing. And this is called, and I have to say it slowly, the Perfect Piecing Seam Guide. I have 4 sewing machines, and each one, the needle is just a little bit off the presser foot, and I want to make sure that I get a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So I will take the needle on the sewing machine, I will place it down into the hole that's on this ruler, lower the presser foot, and then this part is where the perfect 1/4 inch is. Now you can mark it with tape, you could mark it with the markings on your throat plate. They have the magnetic guides, but it gives you a pretty good idea. And you can also check your 1/4 inch foot. These are some half square triangles, and half square triangles are very often used in quilting and in embellishment for garments. Usually the directions will suggest that you draw a line from point to point and then sew 1/4 of an inch on each side of the line. I'm not very good at doing that. Again, I'm talking to the choir, so I'm just giving you my considerations. I have what is called the quilter's wand, and this allows you to place the center line corner to corner, and then you mark along the edge, and that's going to be your stitching line. Now, I did this with a Sharpie so that you could see it. Normally, my favorite tool is the tailor's chalk. I like this because it's fairly smooth down here at the bottom, and it can easily be wiped off. I usually just take another piece of fabric and wipe it off. In this case, you wouldn't have to do it. And once you've got those marks, then you would sew down the 2 lines. Then you cut down through the center, and then you have 2 half square triangles. Right now, the other half square triangle is on the floor because my left hand couldn't handle it. So I have used this. Some people say, oh, that's too much trouble. They would rather do the single line and so, but these are my favorite tools. I like to, and I know a lot of people don't, I like to do paper piecing or paper piecing, where you have a pattern and you sew directly on those lines. I like it because it's really precise. And what you would do after you have your pieces on, you would fold back on the line. Now you won't be able to see this very well because it's black on black. And these are the add 1/4 rulers. They have a lip on them so that you can, there's a 6-inch and a 12-inch. And with the lip, you can butt it against that fold. And I'm hoping I'm able to do this. And that removes the 1/4 or the extra from the 1/4. That allows you to line up your next piece of fabric. And then you can sew across that line, which ends up giving you a nice straight piece. This is something that I saw in a magazine. It's called, I call it a sleeve ham. And my husband made the frame for me. And I made the mitten, which consists of a layer of wool, 2 layers of batting, a layer of muslin. And I fit it so that it would fit this frame. I call it a sleeve hem, and maybe that's what it is, because it makes a nice rounded edge when you're making a sleeve, and you can press that sleeve so that it comes nice and smooth. And I washed some of my masks, and I found that they were wrinkled when I got done, and I found that it worked really well for ironing my mask. One of my favorite tools is a scissors lanyard. It was made for me by one of our former Sewing Guild people. I don't know if you remember Margaret Reek, and I really love it because it's got an elastic in the center, so you can kind of move it around. The directions, I believe, are in the sewing on the website. And I can give you kind of an overview of how it was made. You start out with two strips of 2.5 inches by with the fabric material. Now this is not with the fabric, I just did this for demonstration purposes. The ends are joined at one end, the seam pressed open, and then I stitched that seam allowance down so it would make it easier to turn. Then that length is folded in half, sewn. I sewed 3/4 of an inch from the fold. You might want to do just the opposite and sew from the edge. So I sewed it down, and I trimmed it so that this was 1/8 of an inch, made it easier to turn. I'm trying to think. There's a okay, then once you've done that, you do need to cut it down a little bit. You can cut it down 64 to 72 inches long. And you might want to do that before you start sewing, because you want to make sure that you have the seam backstitched at the beginning and the end. Okay, at that point, you would want to turn it. So this is one of my favorite tools. This is a tube turner, and it's made up of a brass tube, and there is a wire that goes down through the center, and at the end there's a wire pigtail. You would place the fabric tube over the brass tube and then fold it down about 1/2 inch. And then with the wire, you would turn it until that pigtail grasped hold of the fabric. And then you can slowly, and I'm not sure I can do this, you can slowly pull it back. One more success. Yesterday, I was able to tie my shoes. You don't realize how much you use both hands. Okay, there we have the turned tube. And then you can insert a yard of, I use 3/8 inch wide elastic, fed it through, stitched it down at each end. Now you can, if you wanted to, before you sew it up, you can take a pin cushion and you can slide it through if you like. This was one that was given to us in Boston when we went to the convention. And this one was made out of a bottle cap and fabric and stuffing. Okay, and you overlap. And take a piece of Velcro, excuse me, a piece of, grosgrain ribbon, and wrap it around where you have it overlapped. Put the Velcro on here, another piece down at the bottom, and that will hold your scissors. Okay, again, the directions are on the website. You all know what this is. This is the vertical thread holder. Makes a great place for holding that lanyard when I'm not using it. So these were some of my favorite tools. Thank you for joining us and making our community better by using your clothing skills, your sewing skills. Okay, would you put me back up, please? So you can see my face. It's me again.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
We did have a couple of questions come in.
Okay.
The first question from Kathy Healy. She wants to know if the Thread Heaven is a liquid.
It is more like a wax. It's very similar to the beeswax, but not quite as hard.
It's a very soft wax, isn't it?
It's a soft wax.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Linda Ims would like to know if you've ever cut through your fabric when using your ripper.
I have, and I found that if, let me see if I can find my piece again. I have found that if I've, I already took it apart, if I've pressed it and discovered it, that when I come back and try ripping it, it will go through the fold where it got ironed in. So you do have to be careful with that. For the most part, if it's pressed down, I have not.
Okay. A couple other questions have come in. Marcia would like to know what the name of the needles are again, the brand.
Richard Hemming, and I like the Crewel number 7. I think that's on the website too.
Okay. Are the Crewel needles semi-blunt tip or are they actually a sharp tip?
They're a very sharp tip. That's why I like them.
Okay. And we had another question come in from Fran Cohen. She would like to know the name of the 1/4 inch tool that you use on the sewing machine to get your perfect 1/4 inch.
It is called Perfect Piecing Seam Guide. And there's a website, www.perkinsdrygoods.com. perkinsdrygoods.com.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you so much for your attention. And as I said, there are so many things that I have learned from you, and I hope to continue learning about them. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 10:15 and we'll hear Rich's presentation, okay? And if you want to, if you don't need a break and you want to stay and chat, Mary Ellen, can you unmute everybody and allow that to happen?
Everybody's going to have to unmute themselves, but
All
I
right, so
will,
unmute yourself.
I'll unmute the people I can.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to let you go. Thank you.
Then thank you, Bud.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bud.
I
Okay,
think it's
so
wonderful when husbands help us with these things.
It is.
But now I have to have a sleeve ham. You realize that, of course,
Yes.
Nancy.
It's a great tool. It is a
Maybe-
great tool.
maybe Bud will take orders.
I actually had thought about that because there's wood around here, and I thought, oh, that would be something my husband could make me, but I
Yeah.
have other things that he did make, so
Yeah.
all good. Yeah, it's always good to have the person you live with able to do other
Yes.
things that you can't. Yeah.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, I've already, my husband is a wonderful man and he'll do anything for me, but he is not handy.
That's,
But
Surely.
I will be researching sleeve ham because somebody must have one out there you can buy.
Yeah, they are a great tool. Shirley, if you could hear me, do you have whatever you entered in the contest so that we could see it?
Shirley left the,
Oh, she may have stepped away. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
good job, Nancy. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very
Nancy.
much, and you're very welcome.
Oh my gosh, that was fun, and it gave me inspiration because some of those items I own, but I don't always use. So now I have ideas of what to do with them.
Good, good.
Good.
And
So
if
thank
you-
you.
If you don't have them, go shopping, treat yourself, right? There's always something good out there that we need.
But I
to
didn't
help us.
realize Ginger made a serrated scissor for sewing.
They do.
And I
And
never
they-
thought of using a serrated scissor for sewing.
They grab hold of the fabric just beautifully. And if you've got a Ginger's pair of shears, they will make the shears serrated for you.
Oh, really?
Really?
Huh. I do have a pair.
I'm pretty
So-
sure I have a pair.
Yeah, so when it's serrated, that it's not at all, that's very different than pinking shears.
Oh,
correct?
yes, yes. It does a straight
Just, yeah.
cut.
It's a micro serration. So if you feel it, it's a very fine tooth.
Oh, listen to you.
I've got a couple pair, I'm sorry.
No fancy words.
That's the one Pam
question.
Leggett, Pam Leggett just did that ASG presentation, and she
Yeah,
used the duck-billed ones that were serrated that Tula
Yeah.
Pink puts out.
Yes,
Because she was working with fine and slippery fabrics, and she said that works good, so.
yes. That's, I was thinking, where else have I heard that recently?
Yeah,
And that's where it
that's right.
was. Yeah.
So
yeah.
apparently serrated shears are the new thing.
Oh, so we
I'm-
should all put them on our Christmas list.
Latest improvement.
Must
you're
have
right.
20 pairs of scissors in my sewing room for cutting fabric. And it's like, I'm not happy with any of them. But then the other issue, left-handed scissors, they don't cut the same. They don't cut the same way.
No.
It's different. And
Yeah.
it doesn't always work real well.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe
Yeah,
that's why I wasn't real fond of the Gingers, because the way they cut, I don't like it.
Mhm.
I used to use the Fiskars, but I don't like them anymore either because they changed the way they make them.
Mm. I know several of you have made your fabulous bow. I'm gonna just hold mine up here.
Oh, how pretty.
And I sent several of them to Fran. I also put them on our Facebook page. So as you make them, if you can send Fran or I a picture of them, each one I get, I think, oh my gosh, it is prettier than the next. And Linda sent hers to me this week, and it was tied to a little Nantucket basket. And I put it on our Facebook page, and it was the cutest thing. It just, and then Mary sent me hers, Halloween, tied to a basket. And I said, oh my goodness, they just keep getting better and better with each one that I see. So it's a little bit of a an unusual bow. And when I first pulled mine, I thought, oh gosh, did I do this right? But then you just play with it a little bit and they really are a very pretty bow that you can tie to things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
One of the things Mary and I talked about, Kathy, hold your bow up again.
mhm.
The tails are not real, now the blue tails
Oh, okay, yeah,
are on the shorter side.
Yeah.
So well, actually it was Mary's idea to make that strip longer, but don't add any more tacking so that when you pulled it, you'd have longer blue tails.
oh, yeah,
Just
yeah,
I thought it
Good
would look
idea.
good on a wreath.
yes, yes. Yeah, that's a great idea. So share your finished bows with us to inspire the rest of us to get ours done. All right.
It didn't
is
take
Shirley-
long.
No, it didn't. It really didn't.
No,
All
it's really
right,
kind of
we're
a
waiting
fun,
for
it's a
Shirley.
fun project.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All right, Rich, are we ready to move forward?
I'm ready when you are.
You're ready.
Whoa.
Okay,
Hey.
do we want to run down? So when Rich is talking, he's going to be sharing his screen. And if you want to see the whole screen on the right-hand side of your computer, you should have like a tiled view of people. And there's 3 different settings where you can see just the screen. You can hear Rich but not see him. The second one would be where you can see the active speaker. And then the third one is where everybody is tiled. So choose what works best for you. I find that the active speaker one works pretty well. Then you don't get a lot of the screen covered up.
Yeah, and because you'll be seeing a number of pictures during this presentation, so you want to be able to see as much of the presentation as possible.
What are we supposed to click on again?
Okay, at the top of your screen, you should have like a speaker view or a gallery view. And
Yeah.
if you want to click on it so that you get the speaker view, you will get one large picture and then everybody else will be tiled on. I think most computers put it on the right-hand side. And then if you scroll
Oh,
over
so I
that,
want speaker view?
yes.
Okay, I just found it. I don't know right from left, so I just decided I'll go to the other side.
Okay.
Okay,
And then if you wiggle your mouse over the tile of all the other people that are on the side,
yeah,
there should be one that says show small active speaker video. And if you do that, it should just show one person, and then that should be who's talking.
click on show active speaker video.
Yep, if you do that, then you'll have one small screen and one big one.
Yes, got
Okay.
it.
All
Good
right.
job.
We're gonna
Thank you.
mute everybody
Thank you.
again. And we're gonna rock and roll with Rich's presentation.
Okay. Am I unmuted? Because I need to introduce him.
Yep,
I
you're
can hear you.
unmuted for now.
Okay. All right, great. All right. So Rich Healy is my wonderful husband and is a physical education teacher in the Greece Central School District. Rich is also the owner of Rich Healy Photography, which he established in 2018. Rich specializes in senior high school photography, special events, family lifestyle, and professional headshots. You may have seen Rich at some of ASG's special events, such as last year's Demo Derby, or at the 2018 annual meeting at St. Anne's Church, where he was photographing members' beautiful projects. Rich was also a contributing photographer at the 2019 annual ASG conference in Boston. Rich is passionate about his work and feels that you too can create interesting pictures to share with others by using a few basic photography concepts. Today, Rich is going to show us how to incorporate some of these basic photography concepts into our picture taking. Please join me in welcoming Rich Healy.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. And as I begin my presentation, I also want to thank Mary Ellen and Kathy for putting on this demo derby. You know, this initially started back in probably January when Kathy and Mary Ellen got together to begin to plan the program. And then because of the COVID, obviously that had to change. And there was even talk about, well, I guess we can't do this. And yet they worked together and found a way and a format to be able to present this to you. So I am grateful for their perseverance and just stick-to-itness to get the job done. So thank you, ladies, very much for all you've done to get us ready for today. And listening to Nancy's presentation, I was thinking a little bit about some of my favorite tools. And as a teacher, this past spring, when I was teaching students in the same kind of format, my favorite tool was the mute button. It was kind of nice because then I could say whatever I wanted to and the students couldn't interrupt. Now, as much as I enjoy being live in front of my students now, unfortunately, that mute button just doesn't work anymore. So I guess you have to take the good with the bad. But my other favorite tool, obviously, is my camera. And I love, love, love taking pictures. And so that's why I'm here today, is to talk a little bit about my passion and hopefully to encourage you to also become photographers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and begin my presentation. And as I do, let's see here now, just getting this started. And I'm going to say goodbye to my lovely host ladies here who I see. There we go. All right. So the whole idea about today, a few years ago, when Kathy took over the newsletter, one of the things that we looked at to try to enhance the newsletter was to incorporate pictures more. Pictures have a great way of telling the story. And so by adding more pictures to the newsletter, it enhances the information that the newsletter was giving. And so I think I actually invited myself to become a presenter today, because while it's nice to have those pictures in, it's even better when the pictures are coming from the people who are actually there. And so whether it is community events or large group events, if we have some people who are able to take pictures and then send them to Fran, then she can incorporate them into the newsletter, and you get a nice variety of pictures rather than the view of maybe one or two people who move around to try to capture as much of those pictures as possible. So my goal for you today is first of all, to learn how to take pictures that hopefully will be able to tell the story. Then also, what are some situations that you would probably be taking pictures into, and how can you make the most of those situations in the pictures you're taking? We're going to take a little bit of a look at your camera tools. And I do want to say that if you have your phone with you, this is what I'm thinking that most of you are going to use when you take pictures, whether it's a phone or a tablet. And I'm not quite as versed about what the tools are in a tablet, but I believe they're very much similar to the Androids here, which I will include in my tool presentations. So have your phone nearby, because you're going to have a chance to play a little bit and practice using some of the techniques we're going to be using here. And then the last part then is, once you've got the pictures, how do you get them to Fran? Now, there's a couple of things. First of all, obviously what you're going to learn today, you can also apply for your own personal use. So for your families or pictures that you take, you can use them and also get them to people using these same techniques. And we'll take it from there. So let's begin. So when we, when we take pictures, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't want to take pictures. I'm not good at it. I don't know how to do this." And actually, with just a little bit of forethinking, I think you will discover that you actually can take some pretty good pictures. Particularly, we're focusing in, I think, on the newsletter that Fran puts together. And so the picture should enhance what the article that the picture is connected to. It will enhance that story. So think about a typical newsletter. You want to include the who, the what, the why, and the how in the writing of the story, but the picture should also have that same information. So the first thing you really need to know is when you're going to take a picture, what is it that you want people to look at? What's your main idea? Then you also, if possible, what are some things in the picture or in the area that you can include that may support what that main idea is? And then, as I said a minute ago, the picture, if it can answer some of the questions of the who, the what, the where, the when, and the how, that makes it a stronger picture. Now, obviously, as we are learning and developing this skill, you don't need to include all of these things. If you can mostly focus on the main event, what is it after you take that picture, what is it that you want the viewer to see, that's a great way to start. Then if you have the opportunity to add a little bit of supporting elements, even better. And as you're looking at the picture, can you say, okay, what is it that I want the people to know? Who is in here that I want people to see? What is this picture telling? Can it help us know where it is, when it's happening, and even perhaps why? So let me give an example of a picture that, well, may not be so great. So Kathy and I were in Cape Cod this weekend, a couple weeks ago, and it was the second year in a row we were there. And this particular area where we were from a year ago just brought on wonderful, wonderful memories. And so when we were there this summer, and I think I dropped off Kathy at a quilt show at this point, or a quilt store, so I had lots of time to be able to take some pictures. I came to this spot, brought back those wonderful memories, and I took the picture and I said, yay, I got this great picture. And then I looked at it and I said, okay, wait a minute now. What are we looking at? There's an awful lot there. Is there a better way that I could have taken this picture? Because it's very busy and you really can't quite see what it is that I was hoping for my viewers to look at. A better kind of picture from this would be something like this one. Here you can see who the main event is, what's the main focus of the picture. We, can probably we can probably get some ideas in terms of the what, the where, the when, and the how of this. So this is a little bit better of a picture because it zeroes in more on a main event. Let me highlight a picture that I took a couple of years ago that I think would nicely bring all these elements together. And here we have Mary Ellen. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. And this was taken at last year's, or 2 years ago, I guess a year and a half ago, Demo Derby. Some of you were there and you probably can go right back to this spot in time. Now, if I were taking this picture and I was to send it to Fran, I would probably want to include a little bit of a caption. And in that caption, just like a news release, you'd want to include the who, the what, the where, the when, and the how. And so I might have a caption that would read something like this. Here we have Mary Ellen O'Neill demonstrating the use of a Cricut to inquisitive group of sewers at the Demo Derby held on April 6th, 2019. So in this description that I just said, okay, obviously Our who is Mary Ellen. Our what, it's the demo derby. Who, what, where, we know as in my presentation here, I should have said what the name of the church was, and I went to look that up, and then I didn't have a chance to do that. But I would have, where is the picture taken, the church where the picture was taken. And then the who, what, the when was April, and then why is because we're learning about various aspects of sewing. So you can see, here's our subject, Mary Ellen. Here's although you can't see the cricket quite so well, but you can see she's demonstrating something. Here's our inquisitive and enthusiastic, certainly group that is really captivated in what Mary Ellen is saying. We know it's probably April. Look at what they're wearing. We have a connection to the church. So this would be what I would consider a supporting detail. Looking down at the table here, we have a variety of things that also add to the fact that we know we're at a sewing event versus at a football game, let's say. Right? So this kind of picture really pulls together. Again, looking at it just itself, you need to have some information to help me know exactly where I am and when it is. But then that's why you're going to write in the caption that same information. And then someone like Fran, who's doing the newsletter, can then expand on that a little bit. So that would probably be a pretty good example of using the main event, the supporting information, and trying to answer some of those questions of the who, what, when, why, and how. So that's really a great start in terms of picture taking. So now let's take a little bit of a look at what are some things that you might encounter, or what would you be taking pictures of that may be keeping in mind a couple of these next considerations might help you to make better pictures. So there's three areas that I just want to touch upon. One is lighting. One is you're probably going to be with other people, and you're going to want to get them all together. So you're probably going to take some group pictures. And then also, our work here is a lot has to do with the final project or the final piece that you've worked on. So what would be some ways to take some good pictures of your projects? So I want to start with the lighting here first. Has this ever happened to you? You take a picture of somebody, and the main event here is probably the gentleman in the picture, but you see how dark he is? Why is that happening? And just in a very quick understanding, the camera on your phone, and even my camera, is set to try to do the best it can to balance the brightness of the pictures. And so depending on where you're pointing the picture, the sensor of the camera is either going to pick up the brightness of the background or the darkness of the foreground, like in this picture. So the way the person who took this picture was pointing their picture or their camera, it looks like it was picking up the brightness of the background. So in that case, the camera is going to reduce the amount of light coming to the sensor so that it correctly exposes the background. But when it does that, it darkens everything. And so now your foreground, which was a darker or less bright part of the camera picture, then gets even darker. And so this is kind of a frustrating picture that people often take. If you were to just slightly turn either move a little bit or turn the camera a little bit more to the main event, he probably would then have been lit up a little better, and his background might have been a little brighter. By the way, while we're on this subject, here's something else that I think I see oftentimes during these Zoom meetings. You ever see it where the person who is in front of you is very, very dark? Now, either they're trying to hide themselves from people, or probably unintentionally, the way the camera is looking at the individual, it's probably picking up the brightness of what's behind them. Oftentimes, people are standing in, or sitting in front of a beautiful window with a lot of bright in the background, and so the camera is going to adjust because it's too bright, so it's going to reduce the amount of light going to the sensor, which then also reduces the amount of light going to the main person you want to see. So a quick little change of that is just be aware you've got a brightness behind you and turn around. Let the light of the window coming at you, so now you are brighter, and then you come across a little bit better. So just be aware of where the area of light is coming from, and if you're dark, you just have to move yourself a little bit, and chances are then the camera is going to pick up more on you and it will illuminate you correctly. So another thing that would happen then, if you are focusing completely on the darker area, then that's going to increase the amount of light going to the sensor, which means everything gets increased. So if you've got a bright background, it's going to make it even brighter. And sometimes this is intentional. And so maybe you want it to be very, very bright in the background, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't want it to be really bright, then we got a little bit of a tricky situation because the camera doesn't know. Let me know, do you want this to be correctly exposed, or do you want that to be correctly exposed? So there is one little trick that I like to use, particularly with my phone, and that is to use the flash component on the phone. So that way I focus in on the background so that it will expose that correctly. And then the flash is going to add more light onto my main subject, and then I'll get something that looks more like this. And that's exactly what I did here. So this gentleman, I had a flash, actually Kathy was holding on to it, and so it's brighting, the flash is on him, so that way it's a nice balance of exposure to both my main subject and the background. Okay, moving on now to group pictures. And a couple quick little things to keep in mind. Have you ever had this happen before? Smile for the camera, and then you click, and it just so happens that somebody's blinking. So when you take a look at your picture afterwards, take a look and make sure that the person's not blinking. One thing I like to do is just say, okay guys, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you take the picture. Or another thing you can do is, and this is kind of fun, have everybody close their eyes. And then you say, okay, on the count of 3, I want everybody to open their eyes. 1, 2, 3. Now you wait a second and then take the picture. Oftentimes you'll get some, if not many people, will react in kind of a fun way when they open their eyes and they start to see what's happening in front of them. They'll get a smile, they'll get a little giggle out of it, and then you got a little bit more expression in people instead of that kind of forced smile. By the way, just a little bit backtrack, I forgot to mention. For those of you, Kathy mentioned that this is being recorded. So for those of you who just want to sit back and enjoy the presentation and go back at another time and fill in the details, you're welcome to do that. These slides that I have here I'm showing you will also be available on the website, so that you should be able to download this presentation and then kind of click through yourself and take your time to go over. Also down here in some areas, I also have more information for you. So by clicking onto this hyperlink, it will take you to an article that will give more information about this particular area. Okay, now, so we've covered eyes. Now let's go to embarrassing shots. Here's a picture, a group picture of some women here, and a couple things that make it a little bit difficult. If you see, they're all standing shoulder to shoulder. Right there, it's a little bit kind of a sort of boring kind of look. If we had these people turning slightly into the center person. Then what happens is you get a little bit more of a flattering look. You get a little bit more of a uniform look to the group, so it's more pleasing to look at. And look at their hands. They don't seem to know what to do with their hands. And a lot of people feel a little uncomfortable. What should I do with my hands? One thing you could offer is, you know, have some fun. What might you be doing with your hands if I was taking a picture of just you? Another thing that you can do is ask them to just let their hands relax down at your sides, and that's not a bad idea too. Just let them hand at your side. So like this girl, she's got it in front of her, kind of awkward that way. Whoops, I'm sorry, let me go back. A little bit awkward, same here. Something else that can often happen in a group shot, oftentimes when you have a group shot, you will probably have more than one photographer. And so then people get confused. Who should I look at to have my picture taken? So if you look here, this individual is looking right at, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta work on this. This person's looking at the person who took this particular picture. So you can see she's looking at them, but nobody else is. They're all kind of looking around in different places. Where should I look? So what I like to do is if I'm the photographer, I will tell the other people there, hey guys, can you give me a minute? Let me position everybody. Let me get them into a nice pose. Give me a minute to take their picture, and then I'm gonna step away and I'll give you 30 seconds to go ahead and take pictures one at a time. So that way everybody knows who to look for. So here's an example now of a group shot that is a little bit better, and it's a big group, and I love this group because it's my family. And so, you know, think about sizes of people, tallness and all that. Just like a lot of people would say, let's get the tall people in the back, and then let's get another row of the next size and the next size, and that works pretty well. And that's what I attempted to do here. And let me tell you, my family is a tough group to try to all work together to take this picture here. But it really came out quite nice. If you notice, they're all slightly turned towards the main event. And of course, the main event here is good old mother. Here's my mother. I love her so much. And so another thing about taking pictures like this, if you see, they're staggered so that you can see the whole face there, but it also makes these triangles. See how we kind of, and the eye prefers to move along in these kinds of triangles. So if you can, when you're staggering, I'm going to bring your attention over here. This is like a perfect kind of thing. Background, person in front, next person, you can see their whole face. That's really well. Of course, when I look at this, I keep saying to myself, I should have taken my younger brother, Brian, here and moved him over to here. Look at that big spot. Then we would have been able to see all of him. Then, even more important, you'd be able to take me, move into this spot, and you're going to see even more of me. So this would be a little bit better in terms of a group picture. Put them in layers, have them turn slightly to the center so that we're all kind of framed together. All right, and then moving on to this next one. I love this picture. So here we have, let's see, let me just move my, all right. Yep. Okay. So here we have ladies from the Greece neighborhood group, and they were working on a project in our garage. And so there were enough of them where we could put them shoulder to shoulder. And look at, we even have Marcia on the end here. She's slightly turned towards the center, so that makes that really nice. We can see the main idea here are the pictures of the, or rather the pumpkins, and I love Elaine, how she's got this up on her head. That draws your attention right to her. There's always one in the group, right? But doesn't this make a fun kind of picture? I love this. This is something that should go into the newsletter. You have the people's names in there, tell them where they were, what they were working on. You've got the supporting information in terms of the sewing things here and the Sewing Guild banner there. One other thing I want to also mention, and we'll talk about this in a couple minutes, is the power of using a cropping tool. Now, the picture, Kathy took this picture, and the original picture was a little bit bigger, and it had a whole bunch of distracting things up here. I think it was a shelf full of all kinds of poison, I don't know, things that I use on the lawn. And you don't want to see that. What you want to see are these beautiful women with their pumpkins. So by using the crop tool, Kathy was able to zero in on the important part of the picture. So those are a couple of considerations in terms of group pictures. Now, what about projects? Here's a picture of a project of the Christmas stockings that was big a couple years ago. And this is an okay picture. I mean, it shows the picture, it shows the stockings, and you can see a variety of them. It's okay. You know, we have the sewing machine, the sewing background there, so it tells us where we are. But this is okay. But if there's an opportunity to put some of these stockings up on the banister of your house where you might find them, maybe put a couple things in them, that is like the ideal, because then you're showing how this stocking is being used and possibly where it could be used. That would make it a better picture. This is okay of a picture. Another way of doing this is looking at the specifics. Okay, the specifics of a picture. Like here we have the place setting. I'm sorry, the matting behind here, and so we're showing it in terms of using how it might typically be used. Here's one of a bag, a shoulder bag. Again, better that it's showing on somebody here, or like this, the mannequin, and what might be in it. Also, we've got this caddy, right? This chair caddy. And I'm showing you this for two reasons. One, here's that clutter I was talking about. If you can eliminate this by maybe taking the picture of the chair out into the hallway, that might be better. But we want to look at how this caddy is being used. Because of some of the tools that I would have, I can eliminate some of that clutter by just blurring the background so that it really zeroes in on the picture itself. Okay, another example of using this jar and how it would be used in the reality of it. Okay, now let me just go on to kind of quickly, if I could, and this is where you're going to take your phones out and just play a little bit if you would like. What I would like you to do, if you have a phone, is to turn it on and go to your camera program. Over here, I have some examples of the Android. Whoop, there I go again. All right, the Androids. And what that would look like when you're using it. Over on the right is using a smartphone. For our presentation, I'm just going to focus in on the smartphone here, on the iPhone, over on the right here. Again, we've got more information available if you want to learn more about taking pictures down here. All right, so when you have your camera activated in front of you, okay, obviously you can see what you're about to take a picture of. All right, so if you have it and you're ready to go, find something in the room there, click on that big white circle and take a picture of it. And you may notice that the picture you just took is now down here on the side. And so if you were to click on that picture on the side, you're going to see something that looks like this, where you can do editing from, or this is taking you right to where your pictures are in the picture stream. So you can take any one of these pictures if you wish and also edit them. But this is the picture that was just taken. So you want to look on your screen for the word edit, depending on the version you're working with. You may see the edit up here. Mine happens to be down here. So when you click on the word edit, that will give you some tools that you can use to manipulate the picture. Now, because of time, I'm just going to highlight two tools just very briefly, very quickly. So if you have clicked on the edit part, you'll see the picture here. I'd like you now to come down to the tool that shows this cropping tool. And when you selected that, you're going to see a white box, I believe, around the picture. And it has, if you put your finger on the corner of the picture, you should be able to change the size of that box. And the part that is highlighted is what you have cropped into. And you can move that around up and down or side to side to get the side you want to. And once you have the size you want, you can hit done, and that will update the size of what looks like the picture. Now, if you go back to that edit, the word edit again, we did the cropping. Now, if you come over and you go to this circular one with the little line in it, if you press on that, that will give you a whole bunch of tools that will allow you to change how much lighting, how much contrast, the balance, the white balance of it. It will help you to manipulate what the picture looks like to maybe perhaps look at it a little better. So if you do have a picture of one, let's say with that one, like the guy was a little bit dark in the foreground, and it's, oh boy, great picture, but I didn't get it. If you come to this part of your tool, you can brighten that picture up and you might be able to save it. Okay, so I know that's very fast going through a couple of several tools that are available on your phone, but I'm going to let you play with that on your own, take some pictures and play around with the tools so that you can see what your options are in terms of making changes on your pictures. The last thing I just want to take a minute then to go to is, so now you've adjusted your pictures, you've got it just the way you want to. Now you got to get it out of your camera or out of your phone. And so probably the best way to do this, and the one that would take the least amount of work, would be when you turn on your phone and you see all of your different your programs there. If you come over to the one that says photos, and you can see the icons of what an Android one would look like or an iPhone. If you open that one up, you will see, just like we saw before, your list of all the different pictures you've taken. So you want to pick, you want to select the picture that you want to send out to somebody, whether it's a family member or it's a friend for the newsletter. All right, from there, and you've already done your editing and now you're ready to send it off. So you want to come down here where the sending button is. It's the square with the arrow on it. Click on that. And that opens up your choices of how you want to send that picture. Do you want to send it as a text? Do you want to send it as an attachment with an email? If you have Gmail, you can save it to there, and there are other options as well. What I'll have you do is take the picture you just took, select that one, and come over to Messages. Open up your messages, and bam, there you have it in your phone to your texting spot. The picture's there. And up top, you can send this to Fran. Now, before you can send it to Fran, you can't just write her name up top there. You'd have to add her onto your collections there, your contacts. And Fran, I hope it's okay if you don't mind. I'm to give your phone number to people to add on to your their contacts, so that way they can send you directly these pictures, because then what Fran can do is she can save them onto her camera and then move it out of her camera into her computer where she's got her newsletter to be able to add that picture to it. So Fran's phone number, if you want to write this down, and then at another time you can add it to your contacts. Her number is 585-764-7028. I'm sorry, I didn't write this. I didn't put this down on my slides here, but let me just say that again. 585-764-7028. And then if you add a little caption here, the who, what, where, when, why, if you can, of the picture, then she can take it from there to add to her newsletter. And at this time, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to stop my presentation because I'm at the end, and I am available now to answer questions. If we have a moment. Oh, look at that. I realize that is an awful lot. And so maybe to just to capture a couple of highlights when you take a picture, just take a look back and see, are you getting the main picture? What is it that you want people to be looking at from your picture? And if you can add to it the who, what, where, when, why, and how to it, that makes it even a stronger picture. And then send it to Fran so that she can add it to the newsletter and make it a better newsletter than it would be without your picture.
Okay, no questions came in for now. Everybody that's not unmuted, if you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions, feel free.
Right now, my brain is spinning because this is so different than my sewing machine. But thank you, thank you, Rich. It was great information, and I will go back and really look at it with my phone when I can take the time to really delve into it. But thank you, great information.
Well, I'm glad I could mess up your head there for a bit. And I do realize that that's why I want these slides to be available so people can take their time with it. Some people have more experience with using the camera on their phone than others. So at your leisure, you're able to soak up the information.
Rich, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm trying to photograph projects, the difficulty is, especially with a quilt where it's laying on the floor and you're trying to take that picture of it. And this is when you basically have the top done and you don't have it quilted yet. But I get narrow at the bottom and very wide at the top. It looks like it's at a weird angle. And sometimes I'm also, you know, when I'm trying to photograph, say, an outfit and I have Gwenny standing in front of a door, just because it's a bright white plain background. I just wonder, do you have any suggestions for us about how to photograph if a project is laying on the floor? I mean, I've tried kind of trying to get my camera over the top of the quilt as close to the center as possible to get a more flat looking picture.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it all has to do with the angle of the camera itself. So depending on where you are and the angle of your camera, If it's tilted back a little bit, because that's how you've got to get it to fit in, it's going to look like the area closer to you is much wider and the things that are further away are much narrow. Conversely, the same thing will happen if it's tilted forward a little bit, so that it's going to change the perspective some. So the best thing that you try to accomplish is to have your picture pretty much flat to what you are taking a picture of. That would be the best thing to do. Also, if it is a quilt that might be on a bed, if you could drape it on the bed and get a picture of it, how it might look like on the bed. If it's something that somebody might be having on their legs covered up, if there's somebody who you could just have put on their legs and take a picture of it that way. But to try to keep the right perspective, you want to have your camera as flat to the garment or the thing you're doing as possible.
Mhm.
Rich, would it
And-
help Shirley if she stood on a chair or something to get more height? No, I do that. This is why I'm saying it. I
That's the
stand,
way they usually do it when they do it at Jackie Lynn's too. The only issue there is a safety factor in that.
yeah.
Yeah, and so sometimes depending on the size of the quilt or the object you're taking pictures of, you know, you may have to back up away from it too. But like you say, when it's on the ground, the way to get back up is to get higher up in the air. And that has its own challenges.
I wonder if you
as
had
well.
the top done if you just draped it flat over the sofa.
Yeah,
Yes,
I do know.
I
and
often
think
do that.
putting it on the bed would be a good idea too.
Mhm.
I mean,
Or
I just.
maybe even a dining room table,
Mhm.
and you could
Mhm.
stand on the dining room chair.
Yep.
And when it's on a bed, then even if the part closer to you is wider than the part further away, well, that's a natural look anyway as you're looking at a bed. So it
Right.
wouldn't seem out of proportion.
Okay.
Probably the best thing is to hang it up somewhere, but we don't all have a nice big display wall.
Yeah.
Right. And what about backgrounds? Is it better just to go with a white background, or, are we decluttered?
Decluttered, absolutely, because you want the focus to be on the quilt or the thing you're taking the picture of. If you are able to move it away from the background somewhat, then it may blur a little bit behind you, the picture, the background, but if you have the picture right on your project, then that will be in focus and maybe a little bit less focus behind you. But the further you have it away from the background, the more prominence it gives to the subject you're taking the picture of. But yeah,
Okay.
keep it as simple as possible.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions, but thank you, Richard. I'm Nancy. And I've had this for I don't know how many years, and I never thought to look at what those little icons were or those little brightness and things were. I just took the picture, but thank you very much. That was very informative, your whole presentation. Thank you.
Well, good, thank you. And practice, and when you've got some time, play. Take a picture of anything, and then go to those different tools and play around and see what they do. And you may find certain ones you like to constantly go back to each time.
Richard, thank you. And I learned something new today too, just taking a picture and what do you say, cropping it? So thank you. Lots of new toys today.
Yes, good.
That was
All right.
helpful.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen, do you want to, so we have 3 door prizes today.
Okay.
Nancy has given us one of her lanyards as a door prize. So
Okay.
have you picked 3 names already?
No, what I was going to say is, Nancy, would you pick a number between 5 and 16?
12.
12? Okay, that's Lorraine Anderson.
Hey. So Lorraine, you are the winner of the lanyard.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Now I won't have to make one. Make a dozen.
And then
Okay.
Rich, would you pick another number?
Sure. How about with a triangle for those pictures? Let's go with 3.
So here-
How about between 5 and 16?
Oh.
Number 3 would be you, Rich.
Oh.
You want to win a
Well,
door
that's why
prize?
I picked it. Okay, then let's go with 9.
Okay,
3
9
threes.
is Mary.
Mary Garbowski?
Yep.
Okay.
I
So
won
Mary,
last week. Give it to somebody else.
no, well, that's okay. You showed up twice. So your prize is an ASG notebook.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Unless you won this last week. Did you win this last
No,
week? No.
it was something you made last week.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Okay.
good. And then one more prize, Mary Ellen.
Okay, Kathy, why don't you pick a number?
So I will pick number 13.
13 is Fran.
All right. So Fran, your prize is an ironing board caddy made out of ASG fabric.
Thank you.
Pretty.
Nice.
Hey. So congratulations to all of our prize winners. And let me just write this down here so we make sure we have it.
We just have to figure out how we'll get it to everybody.
Yeah, we can do that, but we can do that. Don't worry about that. So thank you for joining us today. So today and last week's presentations were recorded, and our next job is to learn how to put those on our website. It'll actually be a link, but if you go into our ASG chapter website and look on the Demo Derby 2020 page, you'll be able to click on that and watch them at a later time. Or for anyone that was not able to join us today, they can also go and do that as well and watch it as they, when they want to at their leisure, okay? So thank you again for learning how to use Zoom and for being with us today. It's always best to be in person, but I think that for now, this was a good way. I'm glad we were able to still share some information and have some fun with each other today. So enjoy the rest of the weekend. And coming up next month is Gifts Gala will be November 11th at Jackie Lynn's.
No. November 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry, November 4th, yes. And Lorraine, we have spots for 25 people, is that right?
We have spots for 24. I think, let's see, I've got my book here. There's several spots left, but I can't find the right page. There's several spots left.
Okay.
And if you're not comfortable with coming, but would like the booklet, will be emailing it out to those who get email, and I will send it out by mail for those who don't have email.
All right, very good. Okay.
But you do have to request it.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you so much.
everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Kathy, could you stay on for a minute?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Wayne.
Dropping like flies.
Hey, Wayne. Hi. Wayne.
You know, Mary Lou, I'm just going to, or Barry Ellen, I'm going to stop the recording.